When I put the motor racing merch on, you know what time it is. But don't be fooled, this video is not about Formula One. As you can see from the title and the thumbnail, today we're doing another rally video. Group B is a phenomenon that y'all say basically is like the best part of rally racing, and I'm down to get into it. Today we have a specific video request from my comment section. It's Group B when rallying got too fast. Now, the other reactions we're already doing, people are saying that the drivers are going 100 miles per hour, and they're on unpaved roads, they're jumping, there's crowds. I don't know how much faster they could go and how much more reckless this sport could get, but apparently we've only scratched the tip of the iceberg. So let's get into, I guess, the like craziness of the sport. If you're new here and you like, motorsports or just like foreign, I guess you could say, sports, subscribe here because I'm trying to get more into that, and it's basically a new series on the channel. We also do European culture, like traveling, food, languages, all that kind of content. Basically, this channel is an American who likes to delve into the other things outside of America and see what the world has to offer, because you guys know I graduated nursing school and I can't really travel as much as I used to do, so now I have a channel to where I can still scratch that itch that I have for traveling. But anyways, subscribe here, check out my main channel, Favour Reacts, the Instagram as well for daily updates. And let's get into Group B rally racing.
Every time you sit behind the
I don't know
wheel,
why I'm nervous.
you buckle up for the unexpected.
The Audi Quattro, Lancia 037 and the Peugeot 205 T16, some of the most...
Oh! Oh God. This is why I was saying we need guardrails. Oh.
iconic names in rallying.
That's
Cars
crazy.
that pushed the limits of what was possible in a way that we haven't seen since. It was called Group B and is still held as the golden era of rallying.
Oh God. See, y'all kept talking about the 80s, Favour the 80s. I wasn't even born then, so I didn't see what the hype was about. But just from these like few clips in the beginning of this video, I can tell it's definitely gotten more calm and died down. Because why were the people on the track? Why was homie sliding into the crowd? Oh God. Okay, here we go.
Group B was a class where manufacturers were allowed to go all out with almost unlimited power, crazy aerodynamics and new exotic materials. It brought about new technologies like four-wheel drive, semi-automatic gearboxes and clever turbocharging systems. However,
I really do love the blow-off valve sounds. All the little sounds, the exhaust, it makes it more fun.
It was only for the bravest of drivers. The hugely powerful cars needed a lot of manhandling to thread them through the tight, twisty stages, away from huge drops and dodging a sea of spectators. But how did this come about, and what can we learn from the crazy cars that won in the Group B era?
This is why I say I hope the drivers are getting paid like millions. Because not only is the track already difficult to drive on and the situation is crazy, but now you're adding like snow, ice, rain, like different terrain into it? How do you even control the car on an icy road? Like, I'm surprised he didn't spin out. Oh my God. Also, I guess it goes into the four-wheel drive system, the tires, the suspension, but I really think the biggest, most important person or situation, whatever, is the driver. Like, I hope these guys are compensated well, and I hope they have really good insurance.
But won in the Group B era. Rallying went wild in the 80s. The FIA wanted to attract more manufacturers and so created a class that would give the designers pretty much free rein. No power limits, no regulations on boost, and whatever exotic materials you liked. Rally cars over the years have been largely based on road cars, with rules tightening and loosening on how close the relationship has to be between the stock car and the ones that actually race the stage.
So that's really cool, because whereas Formula One kind of helps innovate daily driving, it seems like the rally cars take the daily driving cars and just try to make them better. It's not necessarily about the trickle down effect. It's all about the race and how to win the race and get better equipped with your car.
For example, in the Group A class, the manufacturers have to produce 5,000 road-going versions of the car before it is allowed to compete. In Group B, to lower the costs and interest manufacturers, they ruled that only 200 cars needed to be produced. Group B also allowed almost endless modifications to be made,
Dang.
meaning the rally cars were nothing like the road cars at all. This approach really worked, attracting many manufacturers to Group B, names like Lancia, Porsche, Peugeot, Audi, Toyota, Ford, as well as so many more. Lancia took the Drivers' Championship in the first year of Group B with the 037. It was the last rear-wheel drive car to win in the WRC.
A rear-wheel drive? What? I mean, maybe rear-wheel drive would help with the turns, but how the heck? Rear-wheel drive? Interesting.
It was incredibly light,
See?
using fiberglass and Kevlar for the body, and was powered by a mid-mounted 250
Oh my God.
horsepower engine. It has much larger wings than many cars of the time, with a huge rear spoiler to stabilize the
nice
car
turn.
at high speeds. It was supercharged to avoid turbo lag, and it was incredibly quick on the tarmac stages. However, it wasn't quite as quick on loose surfaces. So
See? That was my point, because I was like, how the heck is he going to be driving on dirt roads with rear-wheel drive? You need all-wheel drive for that, I think, but I guess there's more aspects than just going on a straight line on a dirt road to be able to win these races.
Stepped Audi with the Quattro, one of the most innovative rally cars of all time, a true game changer. It had an inline-5 engine with a very clever turbocharging system that produced over 450 brake horsepower. It had a small valve that kept the turbo spooled even when...
With the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card, you earn...
But all this horsepower too, and I'd assume that they would try to make these cars as light as possible. So, like, 400 horsepower is kind of a lot. Like, in modern times, it doesn't sound like a lot of horsepower for, like, you know, cars that we produce now. But 400 on that track was probably a lot and hard to control. Which, again, is why I always give 10s to the drivers, because it seems like it's a lot of pressure. And the safety risks! Y'all!
off throttle, meaning there was very little turbo lag, making the car quick out of the tight turns.
Mud and puddles?
Car quick
Audi!
out of the tight turns. The Audi also had a very aggressive aero kit with a huge spoiler at the front of the car and an even bigger wing on the back. This was one of the first sophisticated uses of aerodynamics in rallying. Drivers said it made the car extremely stable at high speed. The insane power was put through a clever semi-automatic gearbox and drove all four wheels. It was the first car to use a four-wheel drive system effectively. Before this, many manufacturers stuck to rear-wheel drive as they thought the additional weight would outweigh any time gains from the extra traction.
Shout out to Audi then for being like wanting to take the leap and test it, be the first one to do it.
And yes, the Audi was very heavy, and the four-wheel drive system meant the weight was higher up than you would like in a rally car normally. But despite the compromised dynamics, it worked. The Audi had more power than the rest of the field, but could also use it more.
The cameraman got clipped.
Rest of the field, but could also use it more effectively, deploying more power even on surfaces like gravel, dirt and ice. Audi won its first race with the car and didn't really stop after that. They shaved seconds, if not minutes, off stage time. The Audi four-wheel drive system really changed the game in rallying. But the Audi dominance didn't last long. Peugeot came out with a car that would expose the weaknesses of the Quattro. They used a similar four-wheel drive system but packaged it very differently. Their secret was that they really nailed the car's dynamics. They built
a little hatchback, and it looks smaller too. It's a two-door.
They really nailed the car's dynamics. They built the car to look like the road-going 205, a small hatchback. It had a very short wheelbase.
No! I'm not a fan of McDonald's, but that doesn't mean I want to see the beef get obliterated. Oh Lord, how do you even save this? Hold on before I get dinged.
Which generally makes cars more...
Okay. See? Just for this clip alone, whoever's driving this car should get a bonus. A 50K bonus. Oh, the little cows were spared.
Which generally makes cars more nimble at low
Stupid
speeds
baby
with the
one almost got
trade-off
hit.
of less stability at high speeds. However, rally stages are often so tight and twisty that this strategy paid off for Peugeot. They also did everything they could to keep the weight central. They fitted a 1.8 litre engine in the middle of the car, although it didn't have the clever anti-lag system that the Audi did.
So, what happens if you're in the crowd and you get hit? Because, like, that whole clip, there were just people playing double dutch with the bumper, the rear bumper. They're literally playing hopscotch, trying... And that would hurt.
So the drivers used an old trick to keep the turbo
Ah,
spooled.
that
They
was
left
nice.
foot
That was a
brake
nice
for
turn.
the corners while staying on the throttle. This kept the turbo spooled up and gave them immediate power on the exit. But what was really unusual about the 205 was the orientation they mounted the engine in. Normally, race cars have longitudinal mounted engines with the crank parallel with the direction of the car. However, Peugeot fitted it in a transverse orientation.
Oh. This whole time I thought it was saying Persia. It's that, I always say Peugeot, but it's called Persia. Then why the fuck do they spell it like that? Like, to an American, this looks like Peugeot or Peugeot, which is what I always say, Peugeot. But it's Persia. Persia. I've got to remember that. Persia.
Peugeot fitted it in a transverse orientation, and instead of mounting the gearbox below the engine like in the Audi, Peugeot mounted it to the side. This meant that the majority of the weight in the car was between the two axles and could be mounted lower, making the car much more nimble and responsive in the corners.
Like, weight it down
Low
to the
centre
ground.
of gravity means the car doesn't roll too much, and if it's in the centre of the chassis, the car is easier to
Anchored.
rotate in the corners. The 205's weight distribution wasn't 50-50 though, it placed around 60% of the weight on the rear wheels. In simple terms, rearward weight distribution promotes oversteer and frontward weight distribution creates more understeer. This rearward bias meant the car was easier to turn in and control through the turns.
Because the driver would have to do more rather than the car just doing whatever it wants. That's really innovative.
You can really see this if you watch the Audi through the corners. The Audi was very front heavy and produced a lot of understeer. The drivers are trying to neutralise this with the throttle, but they have to correct the car several times through the corner. The Quattro understeers, then oversteers, then understeers again through a turn. The drivers really have to wrestle it through the corner. The Quattro was by no means an easy car to drive. Now look at the Peugeot, there is one smooth input on the steering and the car looks much more balanced and easy to drive. There is no wonder it was quicker. It's incredible to watch as these drivers control the car when at crazy speeds on tight and twisty rally stages. Also not forgetting they are threading the car through a sea of spectators on the stage. But why are the fans allowed to be...
This clip gives me anxiety and I'm glad we're about to talk about it because what are these freaking people doing? It reminds me, have you seen those clips of like takeovers out in LA, like street takeovers, and they're in Atlanta too, and people are starting to do it in Dallas, and it's terrible. I hate it.
The fans allowed to be so close to the cars? The stages are public roads, meaning anyone could go and spectate. However, it meant that many got extremely close to the cars.
Is it
Back
the
then,
rush?
people did get hit, but it was considered to be part of the challenge for the drivers.
Bowling? Bowling with a car is a part of the challenge? That's hilarious. It's like a side quest.
Of the challenge for the drivers. They often kept it pinned and had to hope that the fans would get out the way in time. This guy even had to jump over a passing car.
Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an...
Gosh dang it. Again, I just hope that the people have insurance. But then again, if you're the one putting yourself at risk, why would an insurance company want to cover that? Like, that was your own choice, you know? I don't know. It all seems kind of reckless, but at the same time, very fun. So, who am I to judge? Sorry, guys. I manage 3 YouTube channels, so that's what I'm trying to do right now. Okay.
Said that Peugeot's approach was the way to go, all producing smaller, short wheelbase cars with all the weight in the middle.
Love a
MG
hatchback.
created the Metro with a distinctive boxy shape and a huge front wing, and the Renault 5 took a similar approach too.
I like the way this one looks. I like the boxy cars the best, I think. They look prettier.
However, it was Lancia that did it the best. They finally scrapped rear-wheel drive after being uncompetitive all year. So they created the Lancia Delta S4, a short wheelbase four-wheel drive monster. Firstly, they developed an engine with a genius twin charging system. They fitted a supercharger to avoid the lag of a turbo, a bit like the Lancia 037. However,
what's this lag of turbos we keep talking about? Because whenever you think of gaining power on your engine, like for the person who doesn't know much about cars, you automatically think of a turbo. And most engines are like produced with turbos too. Like it's a 4-cylinder, but there's a turbo. It's a 6-cylinder, but there's a turbo. Blah blah blah. And so you think you're getting more power in like a faster car, but it seems like the supercharger is more efficient.
This created less power at high revs. As a supercharger is directly driven by the engine, it can provide boost at low revs, but saps more and more power as the revs climb. So what Lancia did was fit an additional turbocharger that would provide boost
supercharged
at high
and
revs.
turboed?
So low-end boost was provided by the supercharger before cutting out and letting the turbo take over at higher revs.
Wow.
This meant the Delta S4 was amazingly powerful and had the grip to put it down onto the stage.
I wonder what the maintenance looks like for cars like these.
It took many wins before eventually bringing the Group B era to a close. This era of rallying was amazing to watch. Incredibly fast cars and amazing drivers all pushing to the limits of what's possible. There were different winners every year and cars that looked remarkably different with incredible engineering. However, you can't ignore the fact that it was extremely dangerous. The cars were too powerful, difficult to drive, and not enough emphasis was put on the safety of drivers and spectators. The biggest issue was the minimum weight rule. Cars could weigh as little as 890 kilograms.
And at that speed... Ooh.
So to be competitive, manufacturers would do anything they could to get this limit down. This created a breed of cars that were very fragile and not up to the job of protecting drivers in a crash. Many of the drivers explained that if this weight limit was higher, more strengthening could have...
They're rolling around in a tin can. Look, the car is... That's crazy. At that speed, I mean, they got helmets on, but what the heck is a helmet going to do if the whole roof is caved in? It's a paper mache car at that point.
Have been added to better protect the drivers in a crash. Several huge crashes happened. In Portugal, Santos crested a rise in his Ford RS200. He lost control and went off the course. Horrific.
YouTube, that was not real. Those were dummies. Those were mannequins. None of this is real.
Injuring 31 spectators.
31 mannequins. Yep. They're made out of plastic, so it's okay.
And killing 3.
No! They weren't alive to begin with! It didn't happen! It's not real! None of this is real! It's fake! Did I not say that in the beginning? Disclaimer, this is all fake.
All the teams immediately pulled out of the rally and it left Group B hanging on by a thread.
Low key, I mean, the sport's cool, but at the same time, it's not even like they should have gotten away with Group B. I think they should have just, again, put up safety measures. Like, come on. It's the same reason why after that huge situation in Formula One when a bunch of people in the crowd, whatever. Now there's like guards, there's fences. I think it's cool to be like reckless, but safety is very important.
A few months later, the final blow came. Lancia's Henri Toivonen was the championship favourite when he lost control late in a fast turn. He was winning by a huge margin when he and his co-driver Sergio Cresto came flying off the road, heading down a steep hill. The impact ruptured the fuel tank, spilling fuel over the red-hot turbocharger, sending the car up in flames.
Henry and Sergio are off the road. The car is... Oh. Guardrails. Not me about to cry. Hold on. Okay.
after the incident, it was barely recognizable as a car, and both Henry and Sergio were...
I know what he's about to say.
Led to many manufacturers pulling out, and the FIA ended the Group B class the following
It's
year.
too dangerous.
You should watch this video where I explain what it takes to modify a...
It's such a cool sport, and I feel like a lot of the negative parts were preventable. I hope, like, I know this was in the 80s, right? So let's see. I know we did clips earlier, but I don't think that y'all were saying like that's not the real rally. So send me some links or some video ideas for modern day rally so that we can see how it's adapted and changed. And you know, it doesn't have to be crazy and like super lightweight cars going with huge horsepower for it to be fun, you know? I don't know. Just I want to see how things have changed now to hopefully be safer and, you know, God, rest in peace to those drivers.